Welcome, welcome. I am your welcome wagon. I think I gotta turn this off. Yeah, okay, good. What up, everybody? It's good to be back to the watch party segment of this channel. Say hello in the chat. Let me know when you get here. I'm just gonna share this link in a couple places. I got my new shirt on. Triggered! Yeah, there's a lot of triggered Ben Shapiro fans out there. They don't like, and they really should be triggered towards Ben because it's like, I'm not saying anything that isn't true. Like, Ben likes his religious convictions, including the genital cutting ritual. So every single time I talk about this, I lose about 100 YouTube followers. It's not good for the channel, but whatever. My work isn't just for what's good for the channel. It's also about doing what's right. It's watch party night. We're going to be watching Matt Dillahunty versus Jordan Peterson. And I've been looking forward to doing this watch party a lot. I mean, it's one of my favorite events, maybe my most favorite event I've ever produced. Yeah, it's always fun to watch it back. I'm not sure if I've actually sat down and watched the whole thing through before. I mean, I always go through segments just to look at them. And there's a lot of like short clips that have been created out of this event, so I'm watching those all the time. MBL McKenzie, welcome, welcome. Say hello if you're joining us. Jay Smith, what up? Mirtrovic Nermatowski says Ben loves little boys. Come on, come on. Don't go down that route. Ben's not a horrible guy, and I generally think he's a pretty good thinker, but he is definitely wrong on the baby dick cutting issue. Joe Rogan knows. But this is my new shirt. I wore it in New York City. I just got back on Monday. Ben Shapiro likes infant genital cutting. Yeah. And he does. It's like, I don't think that's hyperbole at all. He does. He likes it. It's part of his tradition. And it's just pointing out an aspect of barbarism that just one of the many that exists in Judaism. Jay Smith, hello. Who else we got? Nicholas Chan, welcome back. I think Glitch Gamers in the house. Maybe not right now. Say hello when you get here. Hit that like button on this stream so more people will see it. Oh yeah. I was gonna play a little music, but we'll do that right before. We'll play one of my new tracks. Oh yeah, and if you guys do, Kevin Chaos says definitely want one of those shirts. If you guys do want one of these shirts, send us an email at info@pang-burn.com, and I think we're gonna get like a bunch printed, and we'll ship them to you guys. But if you want one, just send us a message. Send us an email. Yeah. We're looking for more content creators for the channel. If you're interested in creating video content based on the Pangburn content that already exists, making compilations, funny videos, whatever, from the live streams or from my podcast, from the live events, send us an email at info@pang-burn.com, and we will pay you for your work. We'll pay you for your video content. So I am having a little bit of vodka tonight. Thought I would have a celebratory drink. Yeah, the event in New York went really well. For those of you who didn't live stream with us or didn't make it to the event, it went really well. You know, Dinesh and Matt touched on a lot of issues, but not anything too far in depth. which tells me that if I do produce another conversation between them, perhaps I will take the stage with them just to keep them focused so that we can really sort out some issues in depth. Um, it didn't really stick to, and I didn't necessarily think this was going to happen, but I knew it was gonna. And I love the idea of having an open conversation, but it didn't really stick to God and Trump. It really got into key social issues. Mohammed Hassan, hi there. Welcome, welcome. Pope Francis, welcome back. Um, Pope Francis says, who is this guy and why isn't the debate playing? Wow. Great first comment in the chat. My name's Travis Pangburn. I am the producer of all of the live events that you will find at on the Pangburn YouTube channel. That's who I am. Jesus Fellatio Disciple says, Dillahunty has Jordan Peterson's for breakfast. I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast. I've been watching a lot of Family Guy lately. I've refound my love for Family Guy. God, I love that show. Cheers. What are you guys drinking? If anything, hopefully water. That's what the human body needs, not vodka like I'm drinking. Go and share this link around. Let's try and get some more people in here. Because of Facebook, like a majority of our audience is on Facebook, and it's been giving us this notice until March 25th. Not many people are going to see our posts. So like we're like posting to our whatever it is, like 60 some thousand followers on Facebook, and it's like the analytics on the post is like 25 people are seeing it. So I'm hoping by like March, I think it's like March 25th. And I wasn't even given any real reason as to why that's happening. I assume it's because of controversial quotes. Jesus Fellatio Disciples says, cold beer here. Nice. Nice. Beer is good. Jay Smith says, why is Matt defending trans? Well, what do you mean by that? Like defending trans rights or trans people? Shouldn't we all be doing that? And I'm not saying that like in the recent clip that was released that Dinesh is against trans rights. That's not true. But Kevin Chaos says, I got Rip It Energy Fuel. Gotta go to work soon. Nice. Jay Smith says, would you say you are an atheist or anti-theist? I mean, I would say like, so the definition of anti-theist is basically to say like, I know there is no God. I will say, and it depends on what you mean by no. Some people apply this unachievable level of certainty to knowing, to mean that you have to be 100% certain to know something, like from an epistemological standpoint. But I don't apply that to anything. I don't think you can be 100% certain about anything. So I'm happy to say I'm an atheist. I have a lack of belief in God because none of the gods have been demonstrated to exist due to lack of evidence. But I am also willing to say I am almost certain that there are no gods, to the same level that I am almost certain that there are no dragons on this planet. I'm almost certain of that. And I mean dragon, not like a Komodo dragon, but I mean like a dragon as in the Game of Thrones fire-breathing dragon. Pope Francis is like really giddy to get at this. When does the video start? Who is this guy? Why isn't the video? Cool your jets. The live stream watch party starts at 8 p.m. Pacific time, which is 5 minutes from now. Roger Ramjet says, I used to be an atheist. Then I realized I am a sex god. Usually people that say that are not that. uh, nice. We got 30 viewers in the room. Everyone hit that like button on this stream. More people will see it. More people will come. If you build it, they will come. I'm gonna do a watch party hangout with you guys on depression at some point, and I'll make sure I schedule it far enough ahead of time. But basically, the whole thing we'll be talking about mental health and specifically depression, um, which I think will be a whole barrel of laughs. No, there is a positive, fun way to talk about depression, but I want to do a live stream at some point about that and just talk to you guys about my ongoing war with depression my whole life and how that's affected my life and the way and the things I've come up with to help deal with that. But at some point I'll schedule that. Yeah. John Taylor says, "Hey, the Pope is here." Yeah, I knew the Pope would be here, of course. Oh yeah. I'll try not to burp a million times into the microphone. Khalid Mohammed, welcome back. Welcome. Hit that like button, guys, on the stream. Take a second to hit that like button and make sure you're all subscribed. If you're not subscribed yet, hit the subscriber. Ugh. Oh, my ice cube just exploded. I thought the assassins had finally found me. Nick Chan in the house. Yeah. So the video production crew that filmed and live streamed the Matt Dillahunty vs. Dinesh D'Souza event this last Sunday, they're working on the content right now, getting the production video all cut together. It's a 3 camera angle shoot, and that will be available soon on the channel. As always, I hope you guys are always sharing the content on this channel, bringing new eyes and ears to the content. It really helps the channel grow, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, so I'm planning, we should be able to do this event in 2 segments, I think, 2 separate watch parties. It might take 3, but we'll see how things go. Arucard the Immortal says, "LOL at Travis ignoring me." Are you mad already? JCP says, "How often do you have these?" I try to do like a live stream. Well, I haven't lately just because things were so busy leading up to the event. But I try to do. I want to do 1 watch party per week at least. If you're just coming to the stream, guys, hit that like button. Just takes a second. Hit the like button on the stream. Hit the like button. Hit it. You know you want to. There's 45 of you viewing. 19 likes. Let's get that number up. More people will see it. More people will join. Abhishek Kumar says, "Hey everyone, welcome. Say hello in the chat, guys, when you get here. I'm having a bit of vodka tonight. What are you guys having to drink, if anything? Tea, coffee?" Toyton says, "Pangburn, I'm new here. Do you participate in other live discussions on other platforms?" I get a lot of invitations. I want to do more. It's just, yeah, I find myself being too busy to do much of that, but I am interested in doing more for sure. Okay, what's going on here? We're going to get started in just a minute here, guys. Um, where are we at? Yeah, we're at 8 p.m. We'll give it 1 minute. Nathan Sanders, welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. Hit that like button on the stream. I have my weed as well. What do I have right now? I have a great white shark. THC total is 6.17. CBD total 12.32. Let's see if you guys can see that. No, it's not going to focus. I'm not. But yeah, I have a few puffs per week. And that's my pipe. Ty DeG. Hello from Taiwan. Hello, Taiwan. Welcome, welcome. Okay. We're going to start off tonight with a little bit of music. One of my new, this track I created, put in your good headphones for this. And I entitled this track just the War of Ideas. And I basically, on the YouTube video, it says, this is what the War of Ideas sounds like to me. So let's do it. It's Jordan Peterson versus Matt Dillahunty tonight. Welcome to the chat. The War of Ideas goes down again. All right. Welcome, welcome. Another watch party. For those of you who didn't join us for our last segments of watch parties, we did Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson 1 through 4. I'm slurring a little bit because I've had a little bit of vodka. We did hours and hours of content. It was usually, I think, 6 hours per video. So everyone do your math, 6 times 4. I think we did like 24 hours of content for that. Nathan Sanders, welcome, welcome. Kevin Chaos says, do you use Pro Tools? I have used Pro Tools in the past, but now I use my classic Fruity Loops engine. I love Fruity Loops. I grew up on that, so I'm really fast with it. Yes. I love her. Okay, let's get cracking here. I don't have Discord set up yet, so if anyone does want to call in during or at some point, we can do it through Skype. Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, I have my new Ben Shapiro shirt on tonight. Ben Shapiro likes infant genital cutting. And I don't think that's hyperbolic to say that because Ben Shapiro likes his religious traditions. And one of the religious traditions that he holds dear to his heart and sacred, and he's talked about this, is infant genital cutting. Whether you call it circumcision, genital mutilation, the covenant sacrifice with God, whatever you want to call it from a mythological standpoint, it is infant genital cutting. So, and obviously I've declared ideological war on Ben Shapiro. If you want to read more about that, just go to the warofideas.org. And that's also, you can see the warofideas.org logo in the stream. So let's get started with this War of Ideas, one of my favorite events that I've ever produced. And I'll provide some behind the scenes commentary and some commentary as we go through this, but I want to hear your guys' comments, and I will stop at certain segments to read your guys' comments. But here we go. Oh, I gotta crank this back up. This audio's kind of quiet, but I've boosted it a bit for this stream.
Clearly, I know a couple people here. Thank you guys so much for coming out, and a huge thank you to Pangburn Philosophy, who's put this together, along with a number of amazing events that I've been involved with, some of which they probably run across the screen, so you can be aware it's going on. For those of you who don't know, I'm Matt Dillahunty. For 13 years, I've hosted the Atheist Experience TV show out of Austin, Texas, along with lectures and debates and other stuff. I've also been doing magic since I was about 3, so I put together a magic and skepticism lecture where I do some magic and I teach about skepticism, and we've been touring across Canada. It's been great. Bit, guys. We did Victoria, Vancouver, Winnipeg, Calgary, Ottawa, and tonight we're here, and I'm not doing magic or talking about skepticism. Because something kind of exciting came up. About, several months ago, I was at the Chan Center in Vancouver with Tracy Harris and Sarah Hayter, and we were doing a talk in one room, and I looked in the dressing room next to mine, and it just said Jordan Peterson. And I wasn't all that familiar, but people had already been sending me information. Oh, you and Jordan Peterson should have a conversation. You should do this. And despite the fact that our dressing rooms were next to each other, we didn't get a chance to speak at all.
So one thing I will mention about that, we were at the Chan Center, and Jordan was speaking only to like less than 100 UBC free speech group people. So he hadn't blown up in the media or anything yet, and he hadn't become super popular. So this was just before that.
And I did my event with Tracy and Sarah, and I went home. And then Travis called and he goes, "Hey, when we do your magic and skepticism thing, would you like to maybe take the Toronto event, and instead of getting up and doing the standard performance, just sit down and have a conversation with Jordan?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I'll tell you ahead of time, right? I'm not going to waste a lot of your time because I want to get to the thing that you're here for. We're basically going to sit up here and have a conversation. We met, a couple hours ago at dinner.
How about those chairs?
First time. So this will be a getting to know you. There'll be some stuff we agree on, some stuff we disagree on, maybe. Who knows? And then we'll take questions. I know there's mics up there at the end. Couple quick notes. There's something that was announced today that some of you may be familiar with. I will not be taking any questions on American Atheist and David Silverman, and that's probably best because that has nothing to do with this event. The other thing is, and I told Jordan this at dinner, the most frequent clip somebody sent me was a BBC interview where the person interviewing him was like, "So what you're saying is, so what you're saying is, so what you're saying is."
Kathy Newman.
And even if I completely disagree with him about everything, which I don't, and even if I despised him, I despise that even more. So I won't be saying, "So what you're saying is." If I have questions, I'll say, "Hey, does that mean this?" Things that lead to clarification instead of straw-manning somebody when you come in clearly with an agenda. So on that note, thank you all again for coming out tonight. We'll try to have an entertaining conversation.
By the way, this event sold out so quickly. Like, I had booked this event before Jordan had really exploded, and I booked it in I think this was like an 800 seat venue or something, like maybe 1,000, but not a really big venue. It might even be less than that. But yeah, as soon as Jordan blew up, this event sold out instantly, and I almost moved it to a bigger venue last minute, but I decided against it because, we had a sold out event. So
Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Jordan Peterson. They're going nuts. They were.
So, by the way, Jordan and I had recorded my first podcast that you can listen to if you go to podcasts on the Pangburn channel here. We recorded that a few hours before the event here. We actually recorded it in the venue.
They were so loud, I was almost knocked over into my chair. How are you?
Ready to go.
All right. Well, there were people who came and were like, "Oh, this was said, and this was said, and this was said," and we talked a little bit about dinner. I thought it would be nice if we started with something quick and easy and simple, like God. In particular, I don't believe there is one, and I have no idea what your thoughts are on it.
You mean on the fact that you don't believe there is one?
I mean just about the subject in general, but I'm happy to hear your thoughts on about what I don't think as well, maybe.
Well, it's a complicated problem, and I don't think that we take it with due seriousness. I specifically don't think that the celebrity atheist types, who I actually have a fair bit of respect for, by the way, take it with due seriousness. So I don't think that they take it with due seriousness from a biological perspective or a phenomenological perspective or a literary perspective or a metaphoric perspective.
I gotta give a shout out. We got our first super chat in by Aricard the Immortal, a $2 super chat, and Aricard says Trump 2020. It's going to be amazing, tremendous. So we have at least one Trump supporter in the audience tonight. Remember to hit that like button on the stream, guys. I'm going to let it keep going here, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that. That money helps keep this engine running.
That'll do for starters. I've become convinced that the fundamental presuppositions of our very functional cultures, or Western cultures say, are nested immovably in a metaphorical substrate. And that when you enter that metaphorical substrate, you're in the domain of religious phenomenology. And I think that not only can you derive...
Here's a question right off the bat. Why does a metaphorical substrate need to be in the religious domain? Think about that one.
That conclusion as a consequence of deep philosophical thought and literary analysis, but that if you know enough about brain function, you'll also come to the same conclusion. I think you come to the same conclusion as well if you look at the evolution of religious cognition from the perspective of an evolutionary biologist and not from the position of a evolutionary biologist whose head is addled by the belief that most of human morality was established in the 500 years since the Enlightenment. So that's a start, I guess.
Except, and so you have to bear with me, because I'm from Texas.
That's okay. I'm from Alberta, you know. It's bigger than Texas, just as bad.
Yeah. So the curious thing for me is all of that applies, seemingly, if I'm understanding it, to religious thought, religious tradition, the value of religious identity to individuals. And I don't see that any of it relates to whether or not there is a God or whether or not there's sufficient reason to believe there's a God, which is my sticking point. I'm fully fine with the idea, we'll try and get through this without, like, raucous applause, but, hey, at least I got one.
Yeah, you don't never complain about raucous applause.
Because that's a sticking point for me. I have no problem acknowledging that people derive value from their beliefs, whether or not they map to anything in reality, that they can be inspired and motivated, educated, and enlightened by poetry, prose, metaphor, allegory. But my concern is, having grown up a fundamentalist Southern Baptist, the people who I know and some of the people who are working to enact legislation on behalf of their beliefs are convinced that they have good reason to believe that there actually is a God, not just that it's useful to them.
I got to give a shout out to Scott Lovenberg with the super chat, $4 super chat. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And the comment is, we're going exponential now. Extrapolate, kids. Extrapolate. Thank you to Scott Lovenberg for the super chat.
Well, it's not that easy to distinguish between what's useful and what's real. So I think that distinction can be made, but it's a lot more difficult than people generally think. And I also think that there's no doubt that there are different levels of sophistication of religious belief. You know, what I see happening in this sort of discussion, say frequently, and again, like I said, I have a fair bit of respect for the atheist types because they spend a lot of time thinking, and that's generally a good thing. I see most of their thinking, however, directed at the fundamentalist types, the fundamentalist Christian types, mostly of the American persuasion, who suffer from the somewhat understandable illusion that the biblical corpus has the same epistemological and ontological status as a scientific theory, when it clearly doesn't. Right? I mean, if you're
okay, now we're closer to the same page.
Okay,
yeah.
If you're a religious thinker, let's say, if you're a serious student of religious thought and a serious philosopher,
Keith Connolly, welcome back.
One of the things you can't claim is that whatever story the Bible is telling is a scientific theory. And that's just self-evident. First of all, like, when was the first scientist? Descartes, Bacon, Newton? Maybe you could chase it back to the Greeks, but no farther than that. And so the idea that whatever the people who conjured up the Old Testament creation account were doing was something akin to scientific theorizing is a mistake that would only be made by people who don't know how to distinguish between different kinds of truth. And so the fundamentalists, like, I feel for
different kinds of truth. This is where Jordan and Sam obviously butt heads forever, even through the 4 events that I produced with them. They still continue to butt heads on, well, I mean, it's like there is no multiple versions of different truths. Something's either true or it's not, right? So we evaluate claims and we determine whether they're true based on if they can be demonstrated with evidence. So
the fundamentalists, because what they're trying to do, to give them credit, is to maintain a corpus of stories in which an ethos is based. That would be the Western ethos, in this case of Christianity, because they believe that the ethos is of extreme value. And I also believe that the ethos is of extreme value and that it is nested in those stories. And so they don't like to be confronted by the rationalist, atheist, evolutionary types because it blows the foundation of their ethos apart, and they feel that it's worth preserving. And I think, well, yeah, it is worth preserving. Now, that doesn't mean that there are...
the question is, though, what is worth preserving? What in that ethos is worth preserving? Not, it can't be the radical claims of miracles and stuff that are just anti-scientific. But obviously, if there are important metaphors, then sure, you can use those metaphors and use the narrative to explain things and explain human issues. But don't lose your grasp on scientific truth while you're doing this. We got another super chat from Arukard the Immortal. I'm gonna just start calling them immortal because Arukard is just a weird word. And the comment is, "You'll get sick of all the winning, I promise." Big smiley face. So much winning, folks. I think that's in reference to the Donald. Let's read some of your guys' chats here. We're getting into the thick of it with Jordan Peterson and Matt Dillahunty. Again, one of my most favorite events that I've ever produced. I'm so glad I was able to make this work. Pope Francis says, I was circumcised and left with wang burn. I think I think I can envision another T-shirt being created. Abhishek Kumar says, what's a Chan Center? It's actually a venue. It's a live theater venue in Vancouver, British Columbia, in Canada. Mitch S says, Travis, how much money do you have? Not very much. No, I'm not a wealthy person. Yeah, this realm of work and intellectualism, or at least at the stage I'm at, is not a big money maker. I mean, my company is pretty new, so it'll take time, but I hope one day I'll be relatively comfortable. Arukard says, I'm about to be this channel's MVP. Adam Race, you guys are talking about Ben Shapiro. We got Adam Race saying Bernie Sanders 2020. Mank Deems back in the house says, I hope Jordan makes a full recovery. Shit sounds pretty bad. Yeah, I've been in email communication with Jordan, and he's working on it. But I'll tell you, during my depression live stream, I'm going to talk about my experience with benzodiazepines. And, as good and amazing as benzos are for treating panic and anxiety, holy shit, they are considered to be more addictive than heroin. So you got to be fucking careful with using. Keith Connolly says you need a metaphorical substrate in order to get an interpretation of spirituality that we can all agree on, because our filters of observation have blurry lines into the periphery. You need a metaphorical substrate in order to get an interpretation. So in order to understand spirituality, I don't know. I mean, you can do that with just reason, right? You don't necessarily need metaphor. So I would say you just need skepticism and reason. Again, thank you guys for the super chats. Socratic says Darwinian truth is a better term for it that Peterson proposed to Sam in the first podcast. Metaphorical truth makes it seem like it's illusory instead of it being about longevity across time. Yeah, but I mean, the longevity of something doesn't make it more true, right? Keith Connolly says, in the realm of psychology and philosophy, truth can change with perspective. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2. In the realm of psychology and philosophy, truth can change. I mean, truth doesn't really... sure, we can believe something to be true based on the evidence of reality that is available, and we can build a model and say, yeah, that model's true, the gravity model's true. And then if other evidence comes in to crush the gravity model, then we obviously have to reevaluate. Yeah, as long as that's the basis of how we're determining what's true or not. I mean, evidence determines what's true. The Immortal says, I'm looking forward to Pavlovianly training you via Super Chat. Thanks again for the Super Chat, by the way. To The Immortal and Scott Lovenberg, thank you guys so much. I can do this all day, and there's a plot twist coming. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Nathan Sanders, welcome to the chat. If something is consistent, then it is true. Clouds are consistently clouds, etc., etc. Yeah, I mean, you can make logical claims like that are going to generally be true, but that doesn't mean they're absolutely true to 100% certainty. Let's get back to the video. Here we go.
Aren't philosophical problems associated with the manner in which they construct their arguments, but
what I'd like
they're
is to
still
find-
worthy. but it doesn't address the issue. There's a deep issue here that we're not contending with. Here's an example. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think so. I just finished. Well, I thought about it a lot, and I do try to think about where I'm wrong, because I would like to figure out where I'm wrong, because then I wouldn't have to be wrong anymore, right? And being wrong is actually not a good thing. You fall into a pit if you're wrong.
And this is what I point out in the...
Scott Levenberg says quantum mechanics is testable and thoroughly well tested, and true isn't a thing there. No, that's not true. There are truths that we can create as far as we build this scientific model about this aspect of quantum mechanics, and we say it is true to say that the probability of X and this happening is this percentage, and that's all we know so far. It's like that's still truth based on the scientific model. But when we get into quantum mechanics, we're talking probabilities often, and not necessarily like measurable or decent predictable measurements. It's hard to nail down. It's hard to create these models and that are like gravity, or that are like evolutionary theory. It's not as simple. There's a lot more seemingly randomness to what is going on.
Lecture on skepticism, since you didn't get to see the show, is that being wrong feels exactly like being right. Nobody runs around going, "Oh, I'm wrong, but I'm going to keep believing this." We all assume that we are correct about a great many things, and it's not so much that being wrong is the thing we're afraid of. I think that being exposed as wrong is the thing we're afraid of.
We're also sometimes afraid of being wrong, because if you're wrong at a deep level, it can really hurt you.
Oh, I agree.
It can really take you apart, and so people don't like to be taken apart. Like if you're wrong about your wife, for example, that tends to be a very painful thing, and that's something that's worth pursuing to try to figure out why that is.
That's why I hide the frying pan.
Wow, this one hits deep now. Matt and I are both divorced. Well, I still have to finalize mine, but yep, that wasn't the case at that time.
That should make you popular. Okay, so one of the issues that I have, and you can respond to this, is that the let's say the celebrity atheist types, because I actually like that phrase, they don't seem to me to be contending with the real issues. They seem
what
to
are
be
the
going
real issues?
Dostoevsky, he's a real issue. Tolstoy, he's a real issue. Carl Jung, 20 books and maybe 15 seminars. He's a real issue.
20 books and 15 seminars doesn't mean, it's funny that was cited. It doesn't mean that any of that stuff is valuable, even though some of it very well might be. But to the claims that the celebrity atheists are dealing with, like if someone, says, this God exists, and they're not talking about metaphorical truth, they're talking about, they're not saying that metaphor exists, they're saying that God actually exists in either the supernatural or natural realm. It's like the celebrity atheists are saying, okay, let's look at your evidence. It doesn't take 20 volumes and X of whatever, like all of this data that you have to read through to get to that. And it's true, like, but it's like typically evidence you'll say, this is how we know this is how we detect it, or put together a logical argument of some kind, and that's what the conversations have been based on. It's like the cosmological argument, the ontological argument, all these different arguments.
Mircea Eliade. Like there are some serious heavy hitters in the religious phenomenology domain.
Okay, and just because again they're heavy hitters, it doesn't mean that what they have to say on this issue is going to be valuable necessarily.
And my sense so far, I just finished reading all of Harris's books, for example, he doesn't contend with them at all. And it's like, for me, that's like being an evolutionary biologist and not being aware of Darwin. It's actually a big problem. It's not something you can hand wave away. Jung was a mystic. It's like,
you don't have to necessarily be aware of Darwin to be an evolutionary biologist. You can look at the data and the scientific model without being aware of where it came from, right? You don't have to be aware of Darwin. We got another super chat from the Immortal. Says, living is binary and existence is spherical. Living is binary and existence is spherical. That sounds like a little woo-woo there, but let's see. All forms of truth can be found by studying this koan of my invention. My name is Christopher Beauregard Zamoski Blake. Thanks for the super chat again. Keith Connolly, long time listener, subscriber, says, my dad got on benzo for anxiety, but he's been hooked on them for a couple years now. He recently came down with depression and has meds for depression now. I think it's the benzos. Yeah, it's like, it's hard. Depression just is like, I mean, I won't get into it too much, but it's just such a hard thing to map, like to blame one thing or the other. It's usually a collection of things that leads to depressed states. Anyways, let's keep going.
Sorry. He was about as smart as Friedrich Nietzsche.
I think this gets to basically the same point I was talking about before. The thing that you're objecting to, it seems, is that many of us don't want to address the aspects of religion that you find value in, because we're only focused on, perhaps as I'm talking in the show, from a scientific skepticism perspective of, are there valid and sound arguments that would lead one to conclude that a God exists? My answer to this so far seems to be no. And the apologists, the theologians, they keep presenting the arguments, the teleological arguments, moral arguments, and all these things. They have nothing to do with the phenomenology of religion. They have nothing to do with how this impacts people's lives. This is a question of, is it in fact the case? Is it consistent with reality that there is a God? And is it consistent with reality that there is good reason to believe there's a God? That is where the focus is primarily.
Yeah, and it's usually construed as a scientific issue.
Well, it's not so. I would never construe it as a scientific issue, because science can't confirm the supernatural. I mean, we are blocked until somebody demonstrates a mechanism by which we can explore and confirm the existence of the supernatural, and then confirm that it actually can impact the natural world. We're stuck, which is why science relies on methodological naturalism.
You seem to be able to do it with psychedelic drugs.
You seem to be able to do what with psychedelic drugs?
Well, everybody that takes them under reliable settings generally comes back and claims the presence of a mystical experience.
Yeah,
and that seems to be duplicatable and replicable across cultures in labs with multiple different substances, the chemical constituents of which are known very well. It's like it's part of this religious phenomenology. And to me, that's just a set of facts. And we know that people have been using those substances to evoke mystical and religious experiences for, who knows, 150,000 years maybe. Sure. We can at least infer that. And we have no idea whatsoever how much of an effect the use of those substances has had on the metaphysical substrate of our culture. So what constitutes scientific data here is by no means clear. Here's an example of this, for example.
Well, before the example,
yeah?
As someone who's been high as a kite, I fully agree that people take drugs and report experiences that they describe as mystical or supernatural. Just like people report other experiences as if they were religious or ghosts or whatever. We have no way of confirming that this something mystical or supernatural actually happened. What this is about the language.
Stops people from smoking.
Well, you can stop smoking without any sort of supernatural intervention.
No, not really.
You can't stop smoking without supernatural?
There aren't really any reliable chemical means for inducing smoking cessation. You can use a drug called bupropion. I think that's the one. It's whatever Wellbutrin is.
Is that supernatural?
No, you don't need a supernatural effect, but it doesn't work very well. But if you give people magic mushrooms, psilocybin, and they have a mystical experience, they have about an 85% chance of smoking cessation with one treatment. But that's kind of like evidence, you know.
Okay, so this whole thing on mushrooms, I have to say that when this video was released, because this all happened before Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson, I sent Sam the link right away. Actually, you know what? I sent Sam a link to it before it was actually publicly released, and he had a watch of it. And then I my phone is ringing and I look at it and Sam calls, I answer it. He's like, I just listened. He's like, I was just listening to Jordan talk about like psilocybin and drug use to like help you quit smoking, and he's like, I had to pause and go and meditate. I think Sam's mind was kind of like blown by that. Just the approach. I thought it was pretty funny. We got another super chat from the Immortal. I don't know if the Immortal's trolling or not, just like paying to troll. He says, I'm not trolling Nathan, no more than Travis anyway. No trolls. I do appreciate the super chat though. Yeah, I just remember Sam calling me and being like, "What the fuck is Jordan talking about?"
It's kind of like evidence.
It's evidence that you can take mushrooms and increase your chance of quitting smoking. But
no, it's not. It's indication that if you take mushrooms and you have a mystical experience, you'll stop smoking, because it doesn't work.
Okay.
Right. It's not. But the thing that is weird here. It sounds like Jordan's saying that the mystical experience is actually tied to something supernatural. But really, and what Matt is getting on, it's like the person is experiencing something that they're claiming that this feels like a mystical, supernatural experience, but it's not demonstrated to actually be that. It just feels that way. The Immortal says, Keith, I challenge you to get to know me. Scott Lovenberg says, 16 bits, I'm paying to troll. Hilarious.
If you take mushrooms and you have an experience that you describe.
By the way, guys, make sure if you're tuning in right now, make sure you're subscribed to the channel here at youtube.com/Pangburn. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're making new content all the time. I really appreciate you guys hanging out for this. We do have other watch parties that we have filmed in the past. We did Sam Harris versus Jordan Peterson. Every single we did all 4 nights, and I believe we did 6 hours of watch party per event. So there's a lot of content there if you haven't seen it yet. So take a look and check out the rest of the content on our channel, because I think if you like this, you're going to like that stuff as well.
As mystical, then you'll increase your chance of smoking. But that doesn't tell me whether or not there was something to this notion that they had an experience that was supernatural in any sense.
Well, it's not definitive evidence.
It's not evidence at all.
Oh, sure it is. Oh, sure it is.
No.
How is it? Wait a second. Wait a second. That's wrong.
Okay.
It is evidence. So, because look,
no, he's right.
You want to speak.
He's right.
You want to think through this skeptically. Okay. You have a pharmacological substance, it's psilocybin. You give it to people who are trying to quit smoking. The psilocybin doesn't directly have an impact on the smoking behavior. It has to elicit what's described subjectively as a mystical experience.
Nathan Sanders says Peterson is right about about some drugs. They are used in therapy for PTSD, and they can rewire our brains. That is true. Yes, that is true. And everyone, including like Sam Harris, everyone else is like, yes, that is true, and we need to learn more about it. But it has been demonstrated to do that. But what Matt's trying to get is that this isn't evidence of the supernatural or the mystical thing being anything outside of just processes in the brain. That's what Matt's trying to get at here. Again, thank you guys for the super chat. I really appreciate it.
And you can get physiological indicators of that mystical experience. And you might say, well, that's not enough to prove that it's a mystical experience, but, you're conscious and I accept that. It's like you accept all sorts of things without being able to demonstrate their validity on every possible objective, with every possible objective criteria. So don't get in too much of a hurry. It's a serious issue. If you give people psilocybin, for example, and they have a mystical experience, not only are they much more likely to quit smoking, which is really something, but they're also much less likely to suffer from death anxiety if they have cancer. Like, that's quite the thing. And not only that, if you test them a year later and they've had a mystical experience, which the majority of them regard as the most significant one, two, or three experiences of their life, including such things as getting married, their personalities are permanently altered in the direction of more openness to experience and more creativity by a standard deviation. Like, that's walloping effects. So we can't get too much in a hurry about dispensing with all that.
Skepticism, as I repeatedly point out in the show, is not about cynicism. It's not about debunking. And I'm not saying that there is no supernatural and that there is no mystical experience. What I'm saying is the thing that people subjectively describe as, I had an incredibly impactful mystical experience, whether it comes from taking a pharmaceutical, whether it comes from attending a revival church service or hearing a particular preacher, whether it comes from having a particularly impressive sexual experience, all of those things, that is the subjective description of that, which may be because of limitations in language, that they don't have any other. This is the language that infuses culture, so that we have to use that to describe it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't in any way serve to confirm that there is any sort of supernatural realm or any sort of supernatural actor.
Well, it depends on how you define supernatural. Like, look, I get your point.
Okay.
And I'm not claiming that the phenomena of psilocybin intoxication is direct proof for the existence of God. I'm not saying that. I am saying
Although that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. Can you imagine if we could take psilocybin or something and literally be communicating with some kind of entity from another realm? Thank you guys for engaging in the chat. Let me know what you guys think of the video and say hello if you're new to these watch parties. And I really appreciate the super chats, guys. It really helps fund these watch parties and everything we do. So much of the money goes towards translating all of this content on this channel to Arabic and Spanish, just so other people in the world can view this content and engage with it. How are we at so far? Okay, cool. Yeah, we're doing good, guys.
People do report personal experiences of that sort of thing. So it's not completely out of the realm of the experience. But it's also because of the problem of the border between the subjective and the objective. It's difficult to probe deeply enough to come up with anything definitive. And I understand that that's a problem. But the supernatural issue, that's a different issue. Like, people are capable of entering different experiential realms where things are qualitatively different to them. The perceptions are different, the thoughts are different, their response to the world is different. They feel that they've died an ego death and transcended their normal mode of perception. Like, maybe that's not part of the supernatural, but then you're starting to define the supernatural pretty narrowly. Like,
no,
do you require miracle, like here and now? Something that defies the laws of physics? Or what's your definition of the supernatural?
So there is the natural world.
Yeah.
And then there are people who make claims that something is not part of the natural world.
Yeah.
That it has some external supernatural origin. Those are the claims that I don't see how we can make any sort of epistemologically sound confirmation of.
Yeah, if someone claims that there is a supernatural realm or that this supernatural thing exists, they got to demonstrate that claim. It's like any other claim. If you make a claim, you got to demonstrate it. The burden of proof is on you. The burden of proof is always on the claim maker. Let's get to some chat here. Darth Infamous says, but it only works with the attached mystical experience. But it only works with the attached mystical experience. What only works? Mary Parker says, is supernatural the same as paranormal? I don't know. I think paranormal tends to deal with like something that is abnormal and maybe not understood yet, but it's been observed in multiple different ways. Like something like UFOs would be probably more paranormal than supernatural, in the sense of like someone's like, oh, there's something that seems to be observed by people, when it's generally just misidentifying something or mass hallucination or things like that. and then the supernatural would be like things like, uh, oh, I just believe that there is this God that it cares about who I have sex with and in what way. Uh, Thinks I should be stoning homosexuals to death and etc. That's like, it's a supernatural God. It's beyond the natural world. Uh, that's what I would say about supernatural. It's just beyond, like Matt just described. There's the natural world, and then there are people who claim that there is something outside the natural world. And a lot of people would say that like something like UFOs are in the natural world, and then they make all these claims about what those things are. Street Socratic says, "Yeah, I like Peterson for a lot of reasons, but he's stretching here. The drugs are authoritative in the experience, and our biology responds to it in different ways, but it's all localized to the body." Yeah, of course. I mean, if you want to demonstrate that something else is going on outside of the body, go ahead. I mean, show us the evidence. You'll win a Nobel Prize if you can. But this kind of stuff has been claimed all the time throughout human history, and has never been demonstrated. Nathan Sanders says Sam Harris has made it a point to rebrand mystical or spiritual, and I thank him for that. Yeah, I think that's great, because we need words to describe, like when you're at a concert and you have this like drive, this artistic inspiration that hits you at just the right moment, and you get this huge charge of inspiration and experience, and and it feels like mystical or spiritual or something like that, which I think is fine, and I think basically hijacking that term back is a good thing. And then Nathan also goes on to say that Peterson probably thinks that it's not supernatural, then it diminishes the power of the experience. Yeah, so I reached this hurdle with Jordan when I had my podcast with him, and it's like, I value the artistic inspiration of other stories, like the story of Santa Claus, as much as Jordan might value something from the Bible, like Cain and Abel. So it's like I don't give special preference to the Bible just because it's part of this long-standing tradition. I just apply my skepticism to each new bit of narrative and storytelling and art, essentially, as it comes along. Nathan goes on to say, but the experience is still powerful without supernatural having to be tied to it. It's like fundies who say love is just some chemicals to atheists. Yeah, and that's a common platitude. The Immortal with the $10 super chat. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. God is the word humans invented to describe their imagined ideal of mental and physical perfection. God is the word humans invented to describe their imagined ideal of mental. No, I don't think that at all. This term was created because people actually thought this entity exists, and I mean, wars are fought over thinking that this supernatural God is on their side. So I don't think this was invented to describe their imagined ideal of mental and physical perfection. No way. These were invented because these early humans really thought that these entities existed. In other words, what people think as of God is in truth their own maximum potential. Nah, you're applying your very modern, very metaphorical view, kind of like Jordan's metaphorical view, on God to something that's much more ancient than that. Keith Connolly says, good description of Supernatural by Dillahunty. Yeah, it's perfect as far as I'm concerned. Darth Infamous, welcome back. The experience is powerful, sure, but the result, stopping smoking, only comes with the mystical part. Not necessarily. You don't need a mystical experience to stop smoking. But I guess in this case, if you want to call it that, it's like, oh, I had this revelation that I'm calling mystical, and that revelation has helped me to stop smoking. But I mean, it's not the revelation that stops you from smoking. It's actually the act of stopping smoking. So and sure, ideas play a huge role in this. And I would argue the pleasure drive is the only role that we need focus on. But you guys can read more about that when I release my first book, hopefully before the end of this year. And it will be on what I'm calling the pleasure drive. QQ minus S says 3 years in prison for adultery would be a hilarious legal penalty. I'd vote for it. Oh, have you been hurt by adultery? I don't think I think adultery is just part of being human. Scott Levenberg says no. UFOs are designations for unknown things that fucking fly, man. Catches your attention when you aren't expecting an Apache helicopter to be landing on your front lawn. No, UFOs are designations for unknown things. Yeah, but that's not. I'm talking about the colloquial term of UFO, meaning alien flying saucer or alien vehicle. You see these UFO fanatics, they see something they don't have an explanation for, so their next step is to say aliens. That's what I'm talking about. That's hilarious. Keith Connolly says, interesting description of God, Arucard. Would this mean that what we are creating as far as where AI is heading would be equal to God? And then the Immortal says, yes, Keith, but God is physically impossible by definition. Physically impossible by definition. Okay, sure. Unless you're going to tie in, I could program something into a computer. At least I can come up with the concept where I could program a God into a computer. So existing digitally, I think gods can exist. Angel Tafola says, I don't agree with that. You don't have the burden of proof unless you are trying to convince someone. No, that's not true. If you're going to make a claim about anything, the claim maker always has the burden of proof. That is logic, epistemology 101. Okay, we got another super chat by the Immortal. I'm well aware that they truly believed and believe in God, Travis. That is not a substantive disagreement with my definition of God. That's what you claimed, man. And then Angel goes on to say, otherwise you don't have to prove anything. You should have to, with anything you believe, anything you claim to know, you should be able to demonstrate that and prove it. And that's skepticism 101. Scott Levenberg says, Travis, remind me to ask you about the nothing book, in quotations, at the break. All right, I will remember that. We'll probably take a break in about 15, 20 minutes or so. If anyone is interested in calling in through Skype, I will have Skype available if anyone does want to call in. If not, we can just stick to chat. I'm cool with that. But thank you guys so much for engaging. The super chat revenue is up to $112 Canadian. That really helps out the channel, guys. That's going to pay for a full translation in Arabic for the new Dillahunty versus D'Souza event that will be available on this channel very soon. Looks like there's about 70 of us in the chat room right now, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out. The Immortal says, I did not claim what you believe I claimed. You misrepresented what I said. I read it right. I read your claim directly. Okay, let's go.
I'm fine with accepting that people have these experiences. I've been, I was, for many, many years, fundamentalist Southern Baptist, and I remember standing in church.
Bias Lemming says, Arucard, so restate it. Yeah, again, restate your God claim if you think I've misrepresented.
And feeling what I would have described at the time as the Holy Ghost, sweeping through me. Now, many years later, I look back at that and I say, why did I describe this particular experience this way? It's a unique experience. It's of the same quality as something you might experience from a drug, or I've experienced similar things from music and drugs and sex, but they're not all exactly the same. And this is kind of the caveat that the believers, for any one of them, would use is, oh, the thing you're talking about, when you had awesome sex or you were on drugs, that's not the same as what I felt with the Holy Spirit. I felt all of them. The reason I would have said at the time that I had been filled with the Holy Spirit is because everybody around me was saying that too. It's not like I have any sort of any way to demonstrate a causal connection between a Holy Spirit and my experience. It was, I had an experience, and I, like everyone else around me, attributed it to the Holy Spirit.
What was the experience like?
Elation, euphoria. I don't think I ever had visions, but certainly it was an overwhelming sensation. You get the goosebumps or hair on your head. And I remember fairly distinctly the first time I had a very similar experience outside of church, because
Mutant Dog says the skeptic has a burden of proof to demonstrate why they don't accept claims. Oh no, are you kidding? Otherwise it could just be cynicism or stubborn. No, Mutant, that's not the way we evaluate claims. There's a reason why we evaluate that the claim maker has to demonstrate their claims, and here's a simple reason why. Okay, I'm going to claim that there are invisible fairies flying around my head right now that you can't see, but I can see. And they are actually in control of everything we do as human beings. So I've just claimed that. Now, demonstrate that claim is not true. Try to demonstrate that claim is not true, that these invisible fairies do actually exist. This is why this is a simple test of your skepticism, or it's a skepticism training tool. This is why the burden of proof is always on the claim maker. It would be on me to demonstrate my claim that these fairies actually exist. But to take the end of your point, the cynicism must be avoided for sure. But what you were showing there is not cynicism. Raiders on Rolly says Kermit the Frog. A dig at Jordan Peterson, unless that's aimed at me. If it is, fuck you. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, fuck you. Cool. Let's watch a bit more, then we'll take a break. Maybe I'll put on a couple of my original tunes that you guys can listen to during the break.
It was from listening to secular music that my church would not have allowed. And then I began to look into things, from far more of a psychological perspective of what type of impact specific music has on people. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine, we've had conversations about the cadence of particular preachers. Mm-hmm, because a Southern Baptist minister will have a different cadence than a Pentecostal preacher, and they'll have a different cadence than somebody else, and I won't put on a performance to do them, but we have this intense curiosity as to are the successful preachers with those cadence in conjunction with the music?
Remember to hit that like button on this stream, guys. Really helps the stream out. I really appreciate it. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Would love to have you. Hit the notification bell as well. You can learn more about what we do at Pangburn at pang-burn.com. Become a Pang Burner.
Are they just tapping into some sort of psychological impact in our brain in order to make us pliable? In the same way that the elevator experiment, where you have everybody face the back of the elevator, and somebody walks in and they face the doors, and after a while, a lot of them become uncomfortable and turn around and face the back with everybody else for no reason. It's just compliance.
Well, you don't want those backward facers to attack you,
It would be good. But if we're back to back, I think, anyway.
Okay, so let me ask you a question about that. Okay, because I think this gets to the heart of some of these issues. So let's say that we can agree that throughout history and before, people were experiencing a set of transcendent emotions that can be evoked by music and dance. And
Keith Connolly says, "Are we all going to take shrooms during the break? Is this happening?" Guys, is this happening? Maybe I'll have a puff of my marijuana. Oh, that smells good. Oh, yeah. I have Great White Shark Sativa. Oh, man, that smells good. But then I'm going to start slurring even worse. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll light it up a little bit. Open this up a little bit.
and other forms of ritual and in a variety of other ways.
A- says,
there's
need me
also
some ego death.
A profound proclivity on the part of people, for one reason or another, to attribute those to some sort of supernatural agency.
Yes.
Now, okay, so I want to separate that from another line of thinking. Okay, so let's just leave that aside. So we could think of that as a theory about the origin of religious belief. The experience comes first. It comes along with an implicit hypothesis about supernatural actors behind the scenes eliciting these experiences. Okay, that's in marked distinction to other theories of religious derivation, like Freud's theory, for example, that religion is a defense against death anxiety, or Marx's theory that religion is the opiate of the masses. Right? It's a much more biological theory, the one we're putting forward.
Sure.
Okay, and it seems to me to be a much more credible theory, even though religious movements can be harnessed for economic purposes and for purposes of manipulation and all of that, obviously.
Yeah,
So,
I would think that.
I really do appreciate Jordan taking the stance, this metaphorical truth approach to God, and not falling into fundamentalism like so many other people. Like, to fundamentally claim that, the Bible is the Word of God and it was inspired. I don't know why I always have to do a Southern accent for that. But it was inspired by the Lord Himself, and these divinely inspired people were the ones who wrote it all down, and Jesus is coming back. Maybe I'm already on shrooms. Okay, let's take a break, yo. Again, thank you guys so much for engaging in the chat and engaging with this live stream. Really appreciate it. Let's talk on Skype. It's me, Jovarons Gooplar. Okay, yeah, I'm going to open up my Skype, guys. For those of you who don't know, I don't have my Skype tag in the stream, but let's see. We'll have some chat while I smoke a little bit of pot during the break. Where is my I always forget where to find my damn. Oh, there it is. Yeah, just I am. What is my chat ID? I don't even know where to find that, to be honest. Where is my Skype ID? I believe I'm at Travis Pangburn 3 on Skype. Scott Lovenberg with the $32 super chat. Wow, I really appreciate it, guys. 32, enough bits to encode all visible colors. What's the current rate of American dead presidents to maple syrup or whatever they use in Canada? I'm in Minneapolis. I don't usually have to exchange currencies so far south. That's awesome. Thank you guys so much for the super chats. I really appreciate that. I need to fill up my water. I don't know what that calculation is, Scott Lovenberg, but seriously, I really appreciate the support. I actually had a layover in Minneapolis on the way back from New York, and I was just in the airport. But I am Travis Pangburn 3, I believe. I'm still trying to figure out how I can figure out what my chat ID is. Let's see, settings. Oh yeah, I am live Travis Pangburn 3. So if anyone wants to jump on Skype, have a chat with me, we can chat. I just gave you guys, if you don't know how to spell my name, Travis Pangburn 3 on Skype. I will be back in like 5 seconds. I just need to fill up my water. Maybe I'll go pee as well because I've had a lot of water. Awesome sauce. Let's take a break. Thanks, dudes. Oh, maybe I'll put on some of my music during the break here, just in the background. Why not? Why not? I think if you search Travis Pangburn on YouTube, it just does this like top tracks thing. Why not? Oh, I'm going to have to turn this down though, because it's going to blast your guys' ears. Let's see.
If you write anything on your computer, you need to get graphics.
Advertisements.
Pretty much all day.
There, we got a little bit of music. I should really be playing this on the other thing, but that's okay. And if you guys want to know what my songs are, you just have to search me. Oops. Did I do that? Sorry. I suck.
Nothing seems to go right. Melodies don't sound right. It's true. Days disappear. Shadows remain plainly clear. The door opens. And the fizzing in my beer slows. The door opens as it slows. I see a shade of something moving like a blanket in the wind. A pretty little blanket, perfect to heal me in the end. The door opens, and the fizzing in my beer slows. She walks by, and the spinning in my head grows. The door opens as it slows. I wish that I was pretty, more pretty than reflections look tonight.
Arucard, the Immortal. I'm going to fade this out. That was a very quick fade. So Arucard, let me go back. I wonder if you did this in a super chat. Montana's losing their shit. You guys are awesome. Thank you for engaging in the war of ideas, guys. Montana will have no hair. Scott Lovenberg says, Travis, next time you're in Minneapolis, look me up and I'll buy you a beer. I'm seeing someone that works in the IDS Center. The lounge at the top is amazing. You can Google my name. It's unique. Cool. Sounds good, brother. Okay, I got to get to... quickly, I'm going to deal with Arucard the Immortal. I'm going to go up to the super chat. Arucard the Immortal says let's see if there's a different one before this. I don't think it is. They invented the word exactly because they believed in the concept. No. They did not believe in a concept. They believed in an actual literal God. The idea, not like they believed in God the person, not God as a concept or the idea of what gods are. That's what they called that entity, like Yahweh, Vishnu, Zeus. So again, you're saying the same thing that you said before. Let's see if I got anyone trying to get in touch with me. Yeah, if anyone wants to jump on Skype, just jump on Skype right now. I am Travis Pangburn 3 on Skype. I'll give you guys a little bit of time if someone really wants to jump on. If not, we'll just plow through. No, but see, the problem is, Immortal, is that we were talking about why the concept was created. That's what we were originally talking about, not how Jordan views it now or how some people view the concept of God now. There's still a lot of people who are still fundamentalist, and when we're talking about God, they're like, well, the only God, Jesus crashed, or or Yahweh, the man with the big white beard in the sky, Sky Daddy. My Sky Daddy's gonna smite ya. Oh, okay. We're gonna have a little bit of psilocybin. No, I'm kidding. It's marijuana. It's marijuana. The Immortal. Downloading Skype now! Double exclamation mark. You're still misrepresenting me. I don't think I'm misrepresenting you. I'm doing an honest reading of what you're saying. I'm happy to talk with you. Okay. Going to do a little bit of the puff puff. Let's see what we got. Yeah, cool. Wow, the chat revenue is up to 170 Canadian. Wow, that's amazing, guys. Thank you very much. If anyone wants to become a patron and support us on Patreon, you are so welcome to. You just go to patreon.com/Pangburn, and there's a bunch of perks and stuff you'll see there to becoming a patron, and we would be happy to have you. I think I've given you guys enough time for a break. This smells so good. Let's have a little bit here. Why am I seeing the wrong? Oh, okay, there we go. That's why this thing was too bloody high. Okay. All right. Now things are going to get really weird. Okay, that was a big hit for me. Probably going to mess up my brain. Hetua Kumar says, when are you going to release the full debate? Are you talking about D'Souza versus Dillahunty? As soon as the production team finishes editing. So it'll take a week or so. Keith Connolly says, I get what you're saying, Arucard. Travis mentioned how Jordan views it. I believe you guys agree more than you think. Arucard is giving a psychoanalysis of the underlying meaning of God. Sure, I'm happy to look at that. But Arucard was talking about why the concept was created, the reasons behind the narratives of God. Scott Levenberg says, breaking in those old wood pipes takes forever. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's true. Well, it looks like we don't have anyone available for chat yet. I think we can continue with the video, and then if anyone does pop up, just send me a message if you want to chat on Skype. And again, I'm at Travis Pangburn 3. But let's continue with some video. And if you guys liked any of the music you heard, just find me on SoundCloud, Travis Pangburn. And I'm all over all social media platforms everywhere. So rock and roll. Definitely feeling that hit of marijuana. I'm such a lightweight. Ow.
There's any number of explanations I've heard for the origins of religion, and I find almost all of them plausible in different forms, except for the one that asserts that they come directly from a supernatural being.
Well, okay, so that's one we're gonna pursue though, because
That was funnier than I thought it was. I was just being honest.
yeah, well, honesty is often funnier than people think it is.
Boy, don't I know.
So people can have these experiences, and they can be evoked in a variety of ways, and people often find them very valuable, at least in terms of their subjective report.
I agree.
And the psilocybin experiments, and also the large-scale analysis of psychedelic drug users, by the way, also.
Forge Not Cast, welcome to the chat, says, the atheist believes they are just another ape species. Apes are dim-witted at every level in comparison to humans. Therefore, atheists have no justification for morality, logic, ethics. Have you heard of, like, genealogy, the study of DNA, evolutionary theory? We are African apes. That's what all the evidence points to. That's what all the models, when we put the evidence of reality into the scientific system and build the models, that's what the models say, that we are all African apes. Just because apes seem dim-witted to you at every level in comparison to humans, but wait a second, like apes are generally a lot stronger than oh, I guess he said dim-witted. That's okay. Are dim-witted. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll grant that. Arucard the Immortal says, are you intentionally... Okay, let's see. The latest super chat is true things and false things are equally concepts. Yes, that's true. Go back and try harder. No, it's... Yes, true things and false things are equally concepts. You need to be much more clear in delivering what you are trying to claim, because the frustration isn't like your frustration in the interpreter. It isn't getting you anywhere. You need to be more clear and concise with what you are claiming. Your claim is muddy. Like, go up to the super chat, read it again. Your claim is Deepak Chopra-ish. You need to clear it up. Be very clear and precise what you're claiming and demonstrate your claim. That's all you have to do. You don't have to write another super chat, but my t-shirt says Ben Shapiro likes infant genital cutting. And it's just a true statement of Ben Shapiro's position when it comes to infant genital cutting. He likes it. Someone's going to clip that for sure. I hope they do. Let's see what else we got here. My brain's definitely going to slow down because the pod is taking its toll, man. Okay, let's watch some more vid.
Also indicate that the use of
This is
such
probably gonna take
substances is generally
3 vids.
associated with an increment in health rather than a decrement, which is quite interesting, right? It's not something you'd necessarily expect. So here's a question. Why in the world do the people who have these experiences have the proclivity to attribute them to supernatural sources, like to a divine source? Like, what's going on there? Why is that the case?
So best guess, and this is contrary, so the skepticism isn't about, hey, let's debunk this and come up with, but if we were going to go through potential plausible explanations, To me, this is very similar to in the 40s and 50s when people were supposedly abducted by aliens or ran into aliens. They had descriptions of aliens that pretty much were varied and often matched the various monsters that you saw in the movies then. After 2001, or after Close Encounters of the Third Kind, almost all descriptions of aliens became the almond-headed, this. The narrative in the culture about what an alien was converged.
Yeah.
And people were, this is what I experienced. In the same way that people will, sometimes cameras will catch orbs, or a particular lighting effect in a house that is supposedly haunted will be perceived as a ghost, as a spiritual, humanoid form. When we, in some cases, can show that that's actually not the case. In other cases, we have no idea what they necessarily saw. But because what people understand about spirits and souls and ghosts is in the zeitgeist of how we think, it enters the consciousness as a plausible explanation, even if ultimately there's no such thing as ghosts.
But that explains why they converge, but it doesn't explain why the initial impetus is the attribution of the experiences to something supernatural, like to something. See, I'm fair enough.
I'm sure that I'm not convinced that necessarily the natural instinct is to apply it to something supernatural. I think it may be more the case that not only are we pattern recognition machines, but we're the descendants of people who, how you see faces and everything.
Yeah, that's a good hypothesis. That's
so you see faces, or you anticipate that there's something in the bush out to get you, and when you go and actually investigate and you find there's nothing in the bush out to get you, rather than assuming that you might have been mistaken, maybe it's a spirit.
Yeah, the social psychologists call that the hyperactive agency detector.
And the fact that we can be, before we had a good understanding, we still don't have a good understanding of death and the mind and stuff. But if I'm standing here talking to you and I drop over dead, there's a clear, undeniable difference in me sitting here as an animated being and me laying there as no longer there. And so it seems a natural inference that something that about me has left. That doesn't mean that there's actually something about me, like a soul or whatever, that's left.
All right, we got our first caller. We're going to have Jordan Vargas on the air. Jordan, whenever you're ready, just do a voice call through Skype. Thank you guys for engaging in the chat. Going to have a quick conversation here with Jordan Vargas, who's going to be calling in. Hey, Jordan. Jordan, you there?
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Pangburn live chat.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So what do you want to chat about?
Well, are you, well, first things first, I'm watching the stream and I hear you on here. Should I,
Yeah, I guess kill the stream if you can. That would be great.
I was going to say, it'd be cool to talk about the debate as we go through it, maybe, or?
Yeah, is there anything specific that you wanted to touch on, that we've already seen so far?
I just got here 10 minutes before the break, so.
Oh, okay. What do you? How do you think in general? Have you seen this debate yet?
Yeah, I've listened to it twice, and I still feel like I need to watch it again.
Yeah. What? How do you think the night went in general for Jordan?
He made a good point at first when he was talking about the celebrity atheist types tend to attack religion from in the sense of attacking the fundamentalist aspect of it, but they don't contend with stuff that's I guess, they don't contend with the stuff that he's talking about. They tend to try and reduce it to that fundamentalist type of religious beliefs or whatever.
Right. So you think that was a solid point. My main contention with this is that if a fundamentalist is going to make the claim that well, my God exists all around us, or my God exists outside of space time, or whatever, and if they make a fundamentalist claim like that, it's like, well, then they're making a claim about, okay, if you're going to claim something exists, we should be able to test this. And how do we test things? We use the scientific method, right? So isn't it the fundamentalist who's taking that conversation in that direction?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I'm just saying
Yeah,
that they like a lot of atheists tend to like I don't know if conflate is the right word here, but like they confuse Jordan Peterson's message with that like fundamental
I agree.
belief in like a real God or because he even straight up says like you can strip it of its what do you call it of the metaphysical substrate, and then
Right.
there's still like Matt Dillahunty is still saying like you're not I haven't heard any evidence about the existence of God coming from you, even though that's not what Jordan is actually trying to do. So
Yeah, so I think Matt, it's true that Matt did claim like, this is my general position when it comes to God. I think a lot of atheists are used to, or at least a lot of skeptics are used to hearing claims of, not the claims that Jordan are making, is that this metaphor is like exists in its own version of truth, like metaphorical truth, because it's like I think almost every atheist agrees that that metaphor exists. It's just how important it is something that is often debated. But I don't think these what Jordan would call celebrity atheists are dodging dealing with what he's talking about necessarily. I think a lot of atheists
right.
have talked about how they respect and enjoy certain cultural aspects of some religions, and some of the claims that are made are just bogus nonsense, but some of the claims are interesting from a narrative perspective.
Yeah, and I think Sam Harris made a good point too, where it's like well, like so I was talking about how atheists misinterpret his message, but I think Christians do too, and they're missing the fact that he's not in support of like a literal God, but they
Yeah.
think that they automatically hear like a positive message about the Bible, so they automatically associate that with like all of the stuff that comes with it in their minds.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that.
So yeah, I mean maybe that's something that I think Jordan Peterson should address a little bit more, just to deal with the confusion.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think Jordan. I talk about this lots where Jordan is a thought pretzel thinker. He's not like a an authored thinker like guys like Hitchens and Sam Harris, um, or even like a guy like on the Christian fundamentalist side like William Lane Craig. It's like these guys are authored speakers. They speak in a way that's really easy to understand and follow. But when you get a person like Jordan who's a thought pretzel thinker, it can be really hard to follow exactly what he is meaning and exactly what he's getting to. So that tends to not translate well to audiences, and a lot of people who don't spend a lot of time listening to Jordan and a lot
Right.
of time kind of dissecting what his thought pretzels are doing, they will see clips of him and be like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like that's a common
Yeah.
reaction. But it's true that you have to spend some time and really focus when listening to Jordan and interpreting the pretzels, because if you just catch a piece of the pretzel, it's not going to seem like a complete thought. And there's a lot of highly intelligent thinkers in human history that have been thought pretzel thinkers like Jordan, but they
Yeah.
tend to be harder to understand, I think.
That and it's like, because what he's talking about is something that we kind of, to some degree, we kind of understand it intuitively if we do understand it. And so in order to like translate it into verbal language kind of doesn't do it justice if you're like omitting details or just looking to kind of summarize it. It just doesn't necessarily get the job done. Kind of in the same way of like trying to understand a dream.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that is even if the idea that Jordan is talking about can be simplified and delivered in a simple way. I think this concept of God is actually a lot more simple than a lot of like thinkers like Jordan tend to. I think they tend to overcomplicate some aspects of the importance of the God concept psychologically in human beings, because I think we have a lot of godless people who get along just fine, and I would go as far to say that in developed worlds, a lot of these people who still claim to be of a religious faith of some kind really aren't fundamentally, but they are more of a cultural Christian or a cultural Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I really appreciate the call. I'm gonna let you go for now and get back to some video, and hopefully next time you'll call in again.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate it. It's cool
Thanks
to
a
talk
lot.
to you.
Yep. Thanks.
Peace.
That was Jordan Vargas, everybody. Thank you so much for the call, and thank you guys for being patient. I'll start slurring my words a little more. Again, that's what pot does to the brain. This is awesome, guys. We'll do about another half hour. Looks like you guys are engaging in some awesome chat here. Right on. Oh, we got the Immortal that wants to call in. So let's here. Let me open up Skype. It's Travis Pangburn 3 on Skype. So we'll take one more call. Jordan Vargas says, "Damn, I was nervous as fuck." It's all good, man. That was good. We had a good exchange there. So we're waiting for the famous, the infamous super chat extraordinaire of tonight's extravaganza. What am I talking about? Arukard, the Immortal, is going to be calling in. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. You guys are really, really digging deep here. Nathan Sanders says this is the worst Peterson has looked in a public debate. LOL, intellectually speaking. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think Matt pins Jordan and wears him out at certain points in this debate. I don't think we haven't really got to that point in the video yet in this live stream, but yeah, I think it was one of these outings that people see what happens when Jordan comes face to face with a very astute skeptic like Matt Dillahunty, and Matt really is I think Matt really outlines some things like, by the end of this, that, okay, Jordan, we understand that you find these things valuable, but it's like you, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily imperative for a human to live a fruitful life. And I think that's just basically the essence of what Matt is saying. Travis Pangburn 3 live on Skype. And if you can't find me, I don't know why. You should see the Pangburn logo. Great work in the chat. If you guys are seeing this not live, make sure you check out the chat. There's some really interesting conversations happening. Anselm Zaraxis and Montana Hoviter are engaging. Into Dionysus says, let's bring in David Silverman and get his viewpoint. I don't know what David is doing right now. Seems to be all over the map. I had to unlock this one. Hain Easy says, Travis, go fuck yourself. Yeah. Hain Easy. So cool. Where's all the vitriol come from there, brother? All right, let's continue with the video. I don't know where our immortal friend is, but can't seem to find me.
Tend to think the same thing when the radio stops working or the television stops working. It's not like the man in the TV has left.
Hain Easy, you withheld the Harris Peterson debate for so fucking long. Are you seriously that much of a, like, that out of tune with the business of producing live content that eventually becomes free to the world? Are you literally that out of tune with reality? Like, you just expect that people will spend hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars risking so much, risking everything essentially, and creating this content, and it wasn't released quite quick enough to your liking, and that's how you justify Travis, go fuck yourself? Are you seriously, are you like the biggest idiot on the planet? Like, maybe you're trolling, maybe you don't actually believe that. I hope you don't. But you just sound like one of these people with their hands out saying everything should be nobody else would have withheld it, you fucking moron. Why don't you go produce your own live event? Yeah, it was over a month. It was actually released. You could have paid like a very small amount of money and viewed it on Patreon. So why didn't you? You just wanted it for free instantly, right? That's not the way the world works. It just isn't. Venturing into the brine says, are you? Quit being dense, Travis. Okay, so we got some trolls in here. Overreacting as usual? How is that an overreaction? This person starts off with, Travis, go fuck yourself. How is what I said an overreaction? Yeah, Arucard, the Immortal, just post your Skype name here, and I'll see if I can find you. Hey, Easy says you're antithetical to what you prefer, what you pretend to champion. Oh, okay. Yeah, this guy's a fucking troll. um, Nathan Sanders says, Hennessy, well, he released the fucking shit for free. That is the best way to get shit spread far and wide. Yeah, and you know the translations were all free, and you know it's like I try to make the stuff available. The thing about that project is that project was just epic. We had at that time we had to recruit some money through Patreon for that project. Okay, let's see if I can find our friend here. Okay, I said hi to all of the Christopher Zamonska Blakes on Skype. So if this doesn't work, we'll just carry on. Arucard the Immortal says, yeah. So I've sent you a hello there. If you haven't got it at this point, I don't know what's going on. Anyways, I'll leave my Skype open. Let's watch a little more video.
It's just off. But it seems that those
I don't know
sorts of
if you want
natural...
to use that analogy because it suggests that whatever's in the TV is coming from an external source. And you're definitely not making that argument with regards to the soul.
Well, the TV
You know what I
station
mean?
isn't in my living room, so there's at least some external source sending it
Right,
to there.
but that's exactly my point.
Yeah, that's
is
all
that
I was
you,
going.
you make a case that consciousness isn't exactly in your head either, even though it's localized there.
So why would I think consciousness is anywhere other than my head?
Well, how do you account for consciousness?
Well, I'm not sure that we can account for consciousness,
This is definitely true.
but
Yes. See, and
I
that's
have
another
no reason
real,
to think
well, that's
that it's
another,
beyond, what the brain produces. The fact that something's mysterious doesn't mean that, well, if something's mysterious...
Consciousness isn't just mysterious. It's like really mysterious. It's the most mysterious thing.
Okay, well,
right? It's not like ordinary mysterious.
The fact that something is really mysterious to the point where I think you and I would agree that we don't have an explanation for it. Okay, if there was something like that, we'll say that it's maybe consciousness. We agree we don't have an explanation, or at least a complete one for consciousness.
Or even a partial one.
Oh, sorry guys.
It
The
seems
volume is
vaguely
low.
So
associated
consciousness
with the
is
brain.
That was my fault.
really mysterious, and you and I have no explanation for it. As human beings, we're uncomfortable with saying I don't know. This is something I'm trying to teach people to become more comfortable with, is to say I don't know. And so when you ask me about consciousness, my answer is I don't know. But for other people, they're so uncomfortable with I don't know that they posit an explanation that they cannot justify. Something is untestable and unfalsifiable, and that is that there's a ghost in the machine. I can't make that leap because it is entirely speculation without support. It seems intuitively right because of how we view the world. And yet, I would rather say, I don't know, and then continue to explore it, because I worry that by asserting what the explanation is, you stop looking for...
Jordan Vargas says at the Pangburn, consciousness could be a product of brain function, or it could be some external magical thing that uses the brain as a vessel. Well, I mean, to say what's possible isn't really interesting to me. I'm more interested in what's plausible. And what's plausible is we see, millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of calculations happening in the brain, and it seems to be the engine that is generating this idea of what we call consciousness, awareness, which I think is actually a very bad term, and it's something I'm looking to replace with something I'm proposing in my new book. Yeah, I mean, it could be so many different. There could be a little alien in my head, working me with controls, right? And it's just every time we actually look in there, we don't see an alien. We see like brain matter. Okay, hey Easy, you had a good run. Now you're blocked. I'm just reading some of your comments here, guys. Arucard the Immortal says, LOL, Travis is high. I'm feeling a little bit high for sure after my one puff. Nathan Sanders says, Jordan, I have my own idea of what consciousness is. I think people overthink what consciousness could possibly be. I agree with that, definitely. Um, let's see what else we got. Jordan Vargas says, I don't think we don't, or I think we don't understand enough about consciousness to confidently say that it's a product of brain function. In my opinion, it makes sense to some degree, but not fully. Yeah, but that not fully doesn't mean that it's outside the brain. That gap doesn't mean it's outside the brain. What we do know is that the brain is functioning and creating thoughts and ideas, right, and memories, and we're like we know a fair amount about the brain, but there are some functions of it that are very mysterious. Um, but that doesn't mean that we have any reason to believe that anything is going on outside the brain. We have reasons to believe that this is a function of the brain that we don't quite understand, because we all of our functions that make us human are filtering through the brain, and are being processed in the brain. So into Dionysus says the precipice of perception cannot always be clear is called consciousness. You've smoked more pot than I have today. Jordan says, goes on to say, I'm not claiming that being unsure means it comes from outside the brain. I'm saying we aren't sure, but people talk about it as if it's already fact and it's not quite there yet. Yeah, I mean, consciousness hasn't really met any of its burden of proof or claim. I agree with that, and that's what I'm trying to sort out in my new book. Like, I think the pleasure drive that I'm proposing is the thing that actually decides what we are conscious of or what we are aware of. We're only aware of the pleasure pursuits, essentially. I think this idea of general awareness is just not what's going on. Zane Brunt, thanks for the comment, says, I'm not really sure I even know what consciousness is supposed to be. It often feels like it's one of them magic words. Yeah, I agree. It's a magic word placeholder thing that we just, the origins of consciousness are very mysterious, but I think my pleasure drive explanation, which I'll just do like a live stream on that at some point. Oh, let's see. We might finally get Immortal on the air. Venturing into the brine says, no, Travis, don't lie. What did I lie about? Don't lie to yourself and us. You're atheist. Yeah, I'm an atheist. You're going to take an atheistic viewpoint. What exactly is an atheistic viewpoint? Atheism is simply just the lack of belief in gods due to the lack of evidence by the claim makers. That's all atheism is. Let's see if I can actually find our friend. I can't find you, Immortal. Not working. Not working. Too bad. Your mind is already made up. Your mind has already been made up. No, that's not true. Atheism is just a response to a claim that hasn't met its burden of proof, claims of God's existence. That's all atheism is. So if you're going to claim that a God exists or that something exists, it doesn't matter what, demonstrate it. That's the rule of skepticism. Skepticism 101. Oh, it looks like I got Christopher on. Christopher, call. You found me. You must have used that search engine. All right, guys. Just waiting for our second caller. Here we go. All right, Christopher, we finally got you.
Yeah, it took me forever to figure it out.
Not everyone's a genius like me, I guess.
Even geniuses can be crippled by their genius, right?
True, 100%. Well, what did you want to talk about today? And thank you so much for the super chats, by the way.
Oh, my pleasure. I view it as ruthless self-promotion.
Awesome. There you go.
Yeah. And you seem like a nice guy, so.
Yeah. I'm a pretty damn nice guy, I think.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, basically just called to say hi, pretty much.
Yep.
And also, you don't seem to understand my definition of God.
Right. Let's have it.
What was your objection to it again?
Well, why don't you just in case people didn't see your claim, why don't you make your claim,
Sure.
and then
sure.
let's deal with it.
So I said something like, God is the word that humans invented to describe what they imagine to be physical and mental perfection. So in other words, what they think of as being God, even if they truly believe in it, is in reality sort of just an algorithmic extrapolation of their maximum potential, what that would be like if it was realized in reality.
So this may be the case for Judeo-Christianity, but like I don't think what you're claiming here applies to like some polytheism where we have some of the gods being very have many malfunctions, like Ares being this like this lord of just death and war. That really isn't the epitome of
those gods are less relevant because they're exponentially easier to deal with in the first place. They didn't even try to hide the fact that they created those gods in the image of man. But that's still perfectly in line with my definition of God.
Well, but they believed that those gods were real. I mean, they would sacrifice bodies to Poseidon, right?
I don't understand how you think that's relevant to what I said.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna claim like this is this is why this term of God was created, like that's what we're talking about, right? Like
I wasn't addressing why anything. I was just trying to give a definition of a concept.
Well, yeah. So okay, you were defining it as this term that was created to describe X, but I think some of these.
But I didn't imply anything about why. I just said it was X, therefore Y.
Right, but you, okay, sure. So what you just claimed, like right now in this conversation, I don't think that works with some polytheistic version of gods because we're talking about gods in general, right? But if you're going to make a special appeal,
I view all gods as being fundamentally the same type of thing.
Well, I mean,
to a degree.
Okay, how so? Like, how would you qualify that? Like I know you're trying to
to the degree that the word can be applied to all of them, they have that in common.
Right.
They have to share some fundamental aspect.
Yeah, but what would be the fundamental aspect that you think they all share? That they are they are a supreme.
That's what I'm trying to explain.
Like that they are a supreme being, or
yes. So my definition of what it takes to be a god, or rather the difference between being a god and not being a god, is in order to be a god. This is the reason I say God is impossible by definition, because in order to be a god, you would have to be capable of subverting the laws of physics which govern your own substance, which is physically impossible.
But how do you know that they are subverting the laws of physics and that they're just not engaging with laws of physics that we just don't understand?
The laws of physics are the laws of physics. There's the
Oh, okay. You mean the greater. Okay. Yeah. Um, but okay. So your your original description you were saying is that that gods you were talking about gods being like some kind of idea of what human beings would you say it's what human beings would describe as the like epitome of what we should work towards?
what the the epitome the of our potential if it was realized into actuality.
Right. So my contention with that, especially like we can look at every single god in history and look at where this might fail. But if we're talking about like the Christian God, it's like the description, like I am much more moral than the Christian God.
What could be more desirable to the simple lizard brain of humanity than being all powerful and all knowing?
Well, depending on one's pleasure drive, perhaps having sex.
But everything that is involved in leading up to having sex, it requires those more basic things that I was just talking about.
What?
It's about power.
I don't think sex is about power.
No, what that's not quite what I'm saying. Although
Okay.
sex is about power, although it's not, it isn't not about other things, but it isn't not about power.
Isn't not about power. Well, I mean, that's a weird claim. It's like it's not about carrots either.
Wait. No, sex is not about carrots, but it isn't not about power.
Sex is not about carrots, but isn't not about power. That's a weird claim. So
Everything is about power. That's my point.
every
Well, that's one of my points.
one of your points is everything is about power. What about raising children?
Yeah, but that's like one of the most fundamentally power-focused things that there is. That's why it's so important.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't think that's power. It's like
What?
raising.
No. How do you think children are not power?
Well, because they're. I mean, you're essentially.
They're the power of our race to survive for another generation.
Yeah, but well, I guess it depends on how you're going to define power. But it just.
I define everything very fundamentally and specifically.
Right, but if you're defining a child fundamentally, or being a parent or raising a child, it's like I don't think power is a fundamental description of that.
The reason children are so valuable to us is because they represent so much power to shape our future when we get old and sick.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just pleasurable. I think it's all pleasure. Like and it's not the pleasure of the pursuit of power.
That's a nonsensical statement. What do you mean it's all pleasure?
Well, it's not. Our brains seem to be functioning on working towards epitomes of pleasure. Like we're moving towards being well as opposed to not being well in general when the brain is functioning properly.
Are you then overlooking the positive value of pain?
No, because that's also a pleasurable pursuit at times. Pain is part.
But that's relative.
Yes, I'm saying pleasure is relative because pleasure our pleasure drive is essentially hardware meets environment, and some people will have in our genetics have the the possibility to unlock the serial killer pleasure drive, but it won't always the environment won't always lend it.
When you say something like it's all pleasure,
Yeah.
you seem to be discounting the degree to which pain can be a real thing that's bad for people in excess.
Well, no, I think it's not discounting that. It's just saying that, like when we're looking at why humans do X, or why humans decide to do this, or decided to do this and didn't decide to do that. We seem to be moving towards pleasurable pursuits, and those pleasurable pursuits can be pain and can be bad and can have negative effects. I'm not saying that they can't, and that across the whole spectrum can be perverted, I think, depending on environment meets hardware. But I've,
Wait. We've drifted kind of far afield from the original discussion, and I don't think
Sure.
we've resolved our initial contention.
Right. Well, so you have a claim of, why you think the God term was created.
Wait, no. I specifically said I wasn't talking about why.
Well, say your claim again, because there is a why in there. Why there is a why?
No. It implies a why.
Yes,
but
that's what I'm getting at.
It itself is only a definition.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I'm just getting at, like, I'm just trying to get a clear sense of the direct claim that you're making. So, what's your claim?
Oh, my claim is merely that I think the at least the best definition that I've thought of so far for God is that it's an artificial, the word at least is an artificial human invention that we created for the purpose of describing the concept, which is how we imagine ourselves to be if we were perfected.
Yeah, and I think that's way more advanced thinking of this concept than what's actually going on. It's essentially just using our
well,
imaginations to
I'm only
think of.
I'm only trying to address the concept because I think it's the fundamental concept that underpins the disagreement that the two people who are debating on your stream are having.
Right. Well, I mean, I think at some points Matt wants to steer this a little bit into why he objects to fundamentalism and the fundamentalist claims, but also, like, I think kind of like what happened with Sam Harris is that there is this necessity that Sam and Matt feel to point out that you aren't being very clear to the fundamentalists that you are not in their camp, and I think that is a huge.
But yeah, both people are massively failing in terms of communication, for sure.
Yeah, well, but I think it's a difficult topic when someone's going to start talking about truth outside of what truth actually is, like proposing new versions of truth, like metaphorical truth, into a conversation that this just didn't this as or at least in modern versions of this conversation, this concept of metaphorical belief, truth of the existence of God. Like if Jordan says, yeah, I act as though God exists, he's meaning this metaphorically, but people are taking what he's claiming to mean the fundamental existence of a God, the way we know that colloquially.
That's why I think my definition is useful, because by my definition of God, it's totally rational for me to say that, as Jordan says, that I live as though a God exists, because by my definition of God, God is not real.
Right. So if you're as long as the problem is colloquially, I've smoked some pot. Colloquially, we understand God to not mean what you are talking about, even though you're going to define it that way. That's fine, but there needs to be levels of clarification in that. I think
Of
for
course,
people.
that's why I'm on this stream right now promoting the message so that more people can understand it.
Yeah, well, I think it's good as long as it's clear that we're talking about meaningful metaphor and we're not talking about fundamentalism, because you obviously don't want to be lumped in with the fundamentalist like ridiculous dogmatic bullcrap that's in the Bible, right?
Well, what do you mean lumped in?
Well, you don't want to be, when you say
Wait, hold
I
on a
believe
second. Hold on a
when
second.
you say
Hold
I
on.
believe, just one sec, when you say I believe uh, in God, or and this is what I mean by God, and you describe the Christian God, you don't want to be lumped in with the anti-homosexual rhetoric of that doctrine.
I'm sorry, but I still don't quite specifically enough understand what you mean when you say lumped in.
Yeah, well, you don't want to be in the group of people that subscribe. You don't want to be in that group of people who think that those
I view
teachings.
all of humanity as my brothers and sisters, and actually, I view every living thing as related to me uh, to some degree. And so I do want to be lumped in with them to the degree that there are fellow living, breathing people that are also trying to survive. And just by their existence, they help me to survive, whether they want to or not.
Okay, I'm talking about this specific uh, claims that are made in the Bible that are anti-humanism, anti-human,
Well, of
like
course,
slavery.
eh, too much of anything.
Well, yeah, any level of slavery is any level of owning another person's property is bad.
Existence, and mortality enslaves us all.
Um, existence in mortality.
No, existence and mortality.
Oh, existence and mortality enslaves us all. I wouldn't describe it that way.
No, they each enslave us.
They each enslave us. I don't think it's
Exist-
an. I don't think it's an enslavement. It's we get to experience pleasure when there's a very minuscule chance that we would have ever been able to experience pleasure. I
You
would
don't
view.
feel enslaved by the inevitability of your death?
No, no.
Why not?
Um,
I do.
yeah, I guess the inevitability of my death. I don't see death as an enslavement, like the ending of my life as an enslavement. I just look at it as just part of the process.
Do you then believe in an afterlife?
No, no, there's no evidence to
So
suggest that
then why do
anything.
you not fear death?
Why do I not fear death? Because I understand that I'm just another ape on this planet, and there's been millions upon millions of apes that have lived before me, and there will be millions after me, and I just think under having my fundamental worldview is about maximizing well-being. But if someone's going to ask me what is the purpose of life, if I'm to give a general statement for all of humanity, I will say pleasure. It's just to experience pleasure. And, at a certain point, I won't be able to experience that anymore because I will be dead. So,
That's a woefully unspecific definition of what life is about.
well, that's because life is unspecific. I mean, we can,
It
the
isn't
best,
quite that unspecific, though. It's not just about seeking pleasure. It's also about avoiding pain.
no, I didn't say seeking pleasure. It's our we don't. I'm not convinced that we have this control that people like to say that we have any aspect of free will. It's just the processes of our neurology and the chemistry that's going on in our
Wait, what did you
brain
say
are
about free will?
that we do not have any free will.
LOL.
LOL.
We absolutely do have free will. We just aren't,
Demonstrate it if you're
we
going to make
aren't
that
as
claim.
free. We aren't as free as we imagine ourselves to be. That does not mean that we are unfree. Uh, we are we are
Demonstrate that we
free. We are
can.
free. We are free in proportion. We are free in the same ratio to our unfreedom as our power's ratio to the power of the universe.
So you can demonstrate that we have free will.
Absolutely, I can. Just like you can demonstrate that we don't.
Well, I would say I hold the I'm saying we don't from like the position of we almost certainly don't.
No. We
But
mostly
the
don't.
burden
We
of but the
mostly don't.
burden of
We
proof.
mostly don't, but partially do.
Okay, but if you're going to claim that we partially do, see, you're adding a positive claim into the conversation. What I'm saying is that
No.
the
You
default
are
position
making
is
this claim.
knowing. The default position is knowing nothing, right?
No.
No, wait. Just bear with
I'm
me
a
for.
Gnostic. I
bear-
am a Gnostic.
Just okay. Just bear with me for a second though. That when you're born, you don't have knowledge, right?
Incorrect.
What do you think? You think you're born with knowledge?
Absolutely. You're programmed with reams of it.
You're programmed with reams of knowledge when you're born.
Well, no, when you gestate.
When you gestate. Define it.
In the womb, you are programmed with all of the knowledge that is inherent in your genetic code, and
That's not knowledge. That's not knowledge.
it translates into knowledge in the process of creating your brain inside a womb. Yes, it does.
Knowledge is true justified belief, brother.
Yeah, you come with a few of those to start. Yeah.
We don't. If you're going to claim that, you have to demonstrate it because, as far as we know, babies are not born with knowledge.
They know pain. They feel it before they're born.
Sure, but it's not. It's not.
Wait.
That's not knowledge.
So by saying sure, that's
No.
right.
No. I said that just because they feel pain doesn't mean they have knowledge.
Yes, it does. You're just not grappling with the definition of knowledge.
No, knowledge is true justified belief or justified true belief.
What is this nonsense you're saying?
This is epistemology 101.
Yeah, true justified belief. You're just missing how it's true and justified end of belief. How do any of those things not apply to the experience and the knowledge of pain?
Babies cannot have beliefs.
They can believe that pain is bad. Yes, they can.
No, they can't. They don't have the function to apply what a belief is. They don't.
Babies believe, pre-born baby, before they're born, babies believe that pleasure is good and pain is bad.
No, they don't believe it. Even if there is an instinctual process happening, it doesn't mean they have founded beliefs.
And can you define the boundary between an instinct and a belief?
Yes, but beliefs are demonstrable. Like we can demonstrate what one
Instincts
believes.
are not demonstrable.
I didn't claim that.
Well, then I asked you to define the boundary between them. What makes them different?
Well, the difference between beliefs are a label we put on that about something that someone's been convinced of. You don't just claim what you believe. You actually become convinced of what you believe. So you can't convince a baby of anything. A baby is just operating on.
You seem to be claiming that in order to believe something, you have to be convinced that it is true.
Yes, you don't just choose what you believe. You become convinced. Now, if someone's to say, like, just to make it,
and why is your genetic
just wait a sec.
Invalid.
If someone is just to say randomly, like, I believe that rock is Jesus. It's like there's a difference between saying that and actually someone being convinced that the rock is Jesus.
Your instincts are merely your ancestors convincing you of things.
No, instincts are not what they just decide. Instincts are passed through genetics, and
like I said,
that evolves over millions and millions of years. But it's not like consciously being passed on. That's not the way genetics work.
You haven't demonstrated that consciousness is a necessary aspect of the terms that we're using.
I didn't make the claim that consciousness.
Well, then what is the relevance of saying it's not consciously being anything?
well, because you were proposing that ancestors are passing this on, or you used
I
a
didn't say
different term.
I didn't say they did it on purpose.
Okay. It sounded like you were implying that they're I forget the word that you used, but you used some kind of word that it made it sound like you were implying that they were consciously doing this.
Oh, I wasn't.
Okay. Well, anyways, dude, I'm going to wrap it up here, but I really appreciate your call, and I just got to get back to the chat, and I hope you call in again. That
Yeah,
was fun.
absolutely, man. Sorry to take up so much of your time. I was
No, it
just
was good. It was awesome, and again, I really appreciate the super chats. Thanks.
Yep, my
Yeah,
pleasure.
have a good one.
Good night.
Good night. That's awesome. Let's give our man. Oh, what was his name again? I'm trying to pull up my Skype, but okay, we had a good run there. Where are we at? We're at 10:15. Ubelk says, this is a ridiculous fucking conversation. Instincts are not beliefs. They are chemical reactions programmed. Yeah, I mean programmed meaning by evolution. Yes, you are right. But this has been awesome, guys. I think we're going to probably end the stream there. We've been going, how long have we been going here? 2 hours and 30 minutes. I think we'll end it there, guys. I really appreciate all of the super chats. I appreciate you guys engaging in the war of ideas here. There's been some awesome stuff. Yeah, and I love all the conversations that are going on. Please remember to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at the Pangburn. Check out thewarofideas.org. It's our new online publication, still in beta testing. Become a member there, hang out, post in the forum, post in the battlefield. And what else? Yeah, and the Dillahunty versus D'Souza conversation will be out soon. So I hope you guys are excited for that. It's a good one. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll do another one of these watch parties next week, and I'll give you guys a bit more time so you can plan to be there if you like. Again, like this stream, and I appreciate you guys a lot. And let art, as always, let art and science inspire. Thank you. Good night.